Hello, my name is Darren Thomas and I am the Director of Educational Research Techniques. In this particular video, we're going to be taking a look at trying to understand context clues for reading. So let's go ahead and get started. What we mean by context clues is we take other information, other words, other phrases that are used within a reading passage to try to identify the meaning of an unknown word. That's what we're doing here. So we're trying to use the surrounding context of whatever we're reading to use that information to identify the meaning of unknown words. This could be very, very powerful, particularly for reading comprehension and or for being able to determine the meaning of words without using a dictionary. That is what we're trying to do here. So in general, there's 5 different ways this can be done, and they are definition or synonym clue, contrast, example clue, general sense, and clues from another sentence. We're going to look at each of these as we continue. So when we're talking about definition clue, the author tells you directly what the unknown word is. Very, very simple, not hard to understand. And what they do is that with each of these different clues, they have little phrases that they love to use. So when you're looking at a definition clue, some of the tip-offs might be, define as, means, is known as, etc. These are potential clues that you're onto something here. So down below that, we have 2 examples. And so our unknown word, in case you're wondering, is convoluted. So this is our little unknown word right here. And so the word convoluted is defined as something that is complex. Or you could say the word convoluted means something that is complex. Again, notice how we have the little special phrase here. I'll just put it like this, is defined as, means something that is complex. Okay, so now we have an idea of what this word means without having to consult a dictionary or using any other tools. Okay, some other ways that the definition clue can be used is that they use different types of punctuation. So you might see a comma as a way to deal with this. So a comma, a colon, they might use dashes. There's all kind of different ways. Parentheses is another one. And so, I don't know, maybe if you're older, way back in the day, as kids, we had to do our little vocabulary sheet. So we would put the word, at the beginning, whatever our word is, and then we'd have our little colons like that. Then we would write our definition like that. So that's kind of what's happening here. Now, in the example below, we have the following. The text is convoluted. Notice I put here in parentheses complicated. This is like a secret to what that word means. So the students complain about reading it. This text is convoluted, and no, I'm using dashes this time. That means really complicated, so students complained about reading it. So each time, I'm telling you what the word means within the sentence. And again, not using phrases this time, but rather using grammar. All right, here's a few more. Synonym, clue. So, okay, we call this definition order synonym, basically. So synonyms introduced by some phrase like or, in other words, that is, also known as, by this we mean, etc. So the book is convoluted, or we could say complicated, excuse me. So basically what's happening with this example is that the phrase or is almost like an equal sign. So convoluted equals complicated. Complicated equals convoluted. The book is convoluted, and by this we mean. So what do we mean by that? It is complicated. So this whole phrase right here is almost like my equal sign this time. By this we mean it is complicated. Again, there's a multitude of ways that this can be approached, but these are just the examples we have here. Now, moving on to our second of the 5 clues that we have is called the contrast clue. Contrast clues define unknown words by providing a word that has the opposite meaning of the unknown word. So that sounds really hard to understand, but instead of telling you what it is, I tell you the opposite of what it is, if you will. So here are some of the phrases, but, however, on the other hand. Remember, whatever comes after these phrases is going to be the opposite of what became before it. So I guess if you could say, instead of saying like an equal sign, maybe it's like a does not equal sign if you're into math like that. But let's look at the bottom. Women are convoluted, but here's our contrast right here. Men are simple. So what's the opposite of simple? let's do some math or some basic thought here. Convoluted. Okay, so what's the opposite of simple? You can say complicated. Women are convoluted, however, men are simple. Here's our key little phrase again. Again, to understand what convoluted is, you have to figure out what is the opposite of simple. I guess you could almost say like antonym of simple. Moving on. Okay, opposite words. Okay, this is also another tool that they often use. So the opposite of men is often women. Opposite of Democrat is Republican. Opposite of ancient is modern. So this is the contrast. That's how they deal with this. And we've already looked at this example, so I don't need to repeat this. Next one, this is clue number 3 of 5 is called the example clue. An example clue illustrates a word through providing examples. So it's very similar to the definition, but the difference is this: with a definition clue, they tell you directly what the word means. Where with an example clue, they might provide an illustration, which is almost the same thing, but not exactly. Examples are typically introduced by such phrases as, for example, to illustrate, for instance, and such as. Let's look at the example. There are many examples of convoluted, here's our favorite word again, convoluted machines in nature, such as the human body. So right here, human body is my example of a convoluted machine. And so you take what you know about the human body, which is an amazing organism, and it's like, okay, convoluted has to do something with a complicated or an amazing machine. Now, again, this is all assuming we agree that the human body is an amazing machine, which again, if you don't, that could throw you off, which is why you must be aware of multiple different clues and tools that you can use to do this. For example, here we go. I'm using my phrase here. After for example is going to be an example. A convoluted machine would be the human body. Now, I never tell you directly what convoluted means. I give you an example of convoluted, and that is the human body. And so you should be able to infer from that that convoluted means something that is, complex. Okay, now we're getting very close to the end. This is clue number 4, and this is clues from another sentence. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes you will not find the meaning of a word in the actual sentence you are reading. You might have to go back to something you read previously in previous sentences, perhaps even previous paragraphs, if they're like a really bad writer, or maybe something after what you read. And so when you're using the tool clues from another sentence, there's no clue per se, except to, as you can see right here, keep reading. Don't give up. So I've worked with many ESL students in particular. I'm sure native speakers do this as well. As soon as they find a word they cannot read, they crash. And they sit there for 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever, trying to figure out what that one word is. Whereas if they just went to the next sentence, they might have the answer for the mystery that is plaguing them. So here's our example. This book is convoluted. Again, our mystery word is not defined in this sentence. There's no example, there's no definition, there's no contrast. However, keep reading. I cannot understand it because it is so complicated. So right there, we have our little friend here who gives us a tip about what's going on. Convoluted means complicated. All right. Last but not least, general sense of the sentence. The student uses their prior knowledge and personal life experience to determine the meaning of an unknown word. So in other words, you don't see a definition, you don't see examples of it, there's no contrast, you kept reading, but you're still not quite sure what to make of this word. This is where you tap into your prior knowledge, things you know about life already, and you use this information to try to unlock the meaning. Now, this might not be 100% accurate, but remember, our goal here is to try to identify the meaning of words without consulting a dictionary. And so not only is this useful for reading comprehension, it's very powerful when you are taking tests and you're not allowed to consult dictionaries or the internet or other tools to help you to unlock the meaning of these words. So in our example here, the drunken man was staggering, falling all over the place, and look really clumsy. So in this example, our unknown word is clumsy. So again, assuming, let's just pretend you're an ESL student. I'm sure most of us as native speakers know what clumsy means, but we never tell you exactly what clumsy is. There's no, phrases from the example clue. There's no phrases here from the contrast, excuse me, clue. I don't tell you directly what it is. And so you have to just kind of use, okay, do I know what the word staggering means? Do I know what falling all over the place? Do I understand what that phrase means? I would take my knowledge of these things. Also drunken, like what does being drunken normally do to people? Okay, I would take my knowledge of these things to try to infer what clumsy might mean. Again, I might be right, I might be wrong, but I have a tool set that I can use that raises the probability that I can determine what the word means. All right, so to wrap these up, you can see here that we were looking at different contrast clues for unlocking our ability to comprehend what we're reading, in particular in relation to identifying the meaning of unknown words. And there are 5 clues that we commonly use: definition, also known as synonym clue, contrast, example, general sense, and clues from another sentence, or just keep reading. So I want to thank you again for watching. My name is Darren Thomas. I am the Director of Educational Research Techniques. Thank you again for watching, and you take care.